Welcome everyone to the seventh edition of the Athens Roundtable on AI and the rule of law, hosted here at the Royal United Service Institute. I'm Moës, the Executive Director of the Future Society, which is a non-profit with the mission to align AI through better governance. So we prepare decision makers for the geopolitical disruptions that AI brings, and hoping along the way to make AI development safer for everyone. So thanks very much for joining this flagship event of ours. It's the seventh edition, and on behalf of my whole team, we are very excited to have you all join us for this seventh edition. So since 2019 that we have been having this, we have a theme every year, and this year the theme is facing the stakes of AI together, from shared concerns to joint action. Even at a time when trust in institutions is eroding and multilateralism is under strain, we do think that joint action is not only possible but necessary as well. And so we need international coordination on the governance of powerful AI models. This is the main thrust of what you will be discussing this afternoon. We will begin with our plenary session this morning until roughly, I believe, close to 1 p.m. So we will try to stick to time. The plenary sessions are live streamed. This is why you might have some of the slides here. We have actually an online audience. And so these shared concerns will be explored in the morning with our distinguished speakers, but also discussed online by our online community. We have after lunch though, for those of you in person, we will roll up our sleeves and we will dive into some workshops to actually therefore closed door discussions for more hands-on dialogues on two topics in parallel. The first one is on defining and governing unacceptable AI risks. This is a conversation that builds on the momentum of the global call for AI red lines that TFS, CESIA, and the Center for Human-Centric AI have all co-organized this past September, which many of you in this room actually have been involved. Over 300 individuals and 90 organizations that signed the calls for this. So this is a first session, and the session that's happening next to this is concurrently the serious AI incidents and crisis prevention workshop, where you will be discussing basically what measures can be there to enforce any form of incident prevention measures. So our analysis of the OECD's AI monitor has shown that over the past 6 months, incidents related to AI have actually increased by 50%. And this is, of course, something where we start noticing incidents that are increasingly severe. And I know it's weird to say, but in the terminology of the incident working group, there were discussions several years ago, in this pioneering work about is there serious AI incidents and AI disasters. And this is maybe one of the last year where we can say we could still prevent AI disaster as defined in the OECD, because the scale of the increase of the incident that we are witnessing is a bit concerning at this stage. So please, this afternoon, let's figure that one out. Let's make sure that we define unacceptable AI risks, and also that we prevent the more severe incidents that could be caused by AI. So greetings to everyone joining us online. I think there are several cameras, so I don't know where to look, but we are very happy that you are tuning in sometimes very early from you. I know some people are connecting through the Pacific time zone. I really appreciate that. So whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening for you, welcome. Sure. And while you may not be physically present, your perspective is essential. So you'll help enrich the dialogue and contribute to this exercise of collective intelligence. So we truly value your insight. And to facilitate your participation, we are now opening a Slido. In a Slido that will remain accessible throughout the whole morning, where you can put your comments and also discuss interactively and vote on each other's comments as well. So the link is in the Zoom chat. You can add your input to this conversation and upvote the insights. For the in-person participant, you can actually use this QR code to also shape the online conversation. While the online conversation is shaping us, it's only fair to also give you a chance to discuss online as well. We will also integrate all that input in the proceedings of today's events. So we will have a report that will be shared with the India's AI Impact Summit organizers. Before we begin, I want to thank our partners. Speaking of the summit, right? Like we have our two co-hosts, UNESCO and the OECD. Thank you very much for your continued partnership in this edition of the Athens Roundtable and helping us reaching this worldwide online audience. We really appreciate it. We are also honored to hold the Athens Roundtable today once again under the auspice of His Excellency, the President of the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Constantine Tesoulas. Thank you for your continued endorsement of our work since like the first edition of this event took place in Athens 7 years ago. Like it's been great to continue like this partnership. And today's event, as I was mentioning, is also an official pre-summit event for the India's AI Impact Summit. We are very happy to know that like these proceedings will be fed into this conversation. And we are honored that the High Commissioners of India to the United Kingdom will also join us this evening for a closing remark to underscore that like today's input, today's insights will feed into New Delhi's conversation in February. We are also sharing our appreciation for Fathom, Arnold and Porter, and for Cooperative AI for their financial support as a sponsor. We actually would not be able to do this without this financial support. As a small nonprofit, we really appreciate that. This makes our work a lot more sustainable. And finally, a bit of housekeeping. I hope you'll engage actively on social media. Our hashtag is hashtag AI Athens 2025. I know some of you have started already, so great to please like join in the online conversation. For the morning, at least, this is completely free. At the workshop, per se, you should probably respect Chatham House rules unless your table decides otherwise. We will be enforcing strict timekeeping, and so we ensure that we have some Q&A time even during the plenary. And so we're grateful for your cooperation and understanding. You will see some signs occasionally. As for distinguished speaker, you will see some signs flagging the end time of your speech. So yeah, if you have questions, for those of you in the room, you can recognize the TFS team with the yellow lanyards. That's going to be like fairly easy. There are 20 of them, so that could be that you will easily find someone who can help you. There will be also a couple of side rooms available for events if you'd like to take some conversations in a more private area, some more group conversation. And don't forget, from 6 p.m. onward, we will be holding a drinks reception in the beautiful library room, which is arguably the team is still deciding, but like the most beautiful room of this already very beautiful building. So we hope you'll join us and to prolong a bit the festivities and the conversations in a more convivial setting after that. So with this said, let's get started. I would like to kick off the conversation with like a conversation with a talk about the collective action in AI governance. So we have a few opening remarks, starting with Ms. Audrey Plonk, Deputy Director for the Directorate for Science, Technology and Innovation at the OECD. Please join me and yeah.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. It's a pleasure to be back at the Athens Roundtable. I want to thank the Future Society for the long-standing collaboration that the OECD has had starting from the very beginning. And many of you were with us in Paris last year where we had the event at the conference center at the OECD. So it's great to be back here, and thanks for the opportunity to welcome you. It's an important topic. We're at an important moment in time, and so I just want to highlight as we open the discussions today, which I know will be extremely deep and fruitful and thoughtful. That a few things from our perspective. The first is that this setting of standards and cooperation on AI has, of course, never been more important. There's a few things that we're doing at the OECD, as many of you know, more than a few. You're familiar with our principles that date from 2019 and that have been recently updated, but I think importantly is additional standards that we're trying to set around the implementation of these principles and It was already mentioned, the incidents monitor, and my colleagues are going to work with you this afternoon on advancing it. But we think this is a really important example of global collaboration toward a single harmonized standard for collecting data, and so that we can have a critical input to track what's happening with regard to incidents about AI over a period of time. And so I want to draw your attention to that and to the important role. I'm sorry, am I doing something wrong? Yeah, sorry. Is that better? The only thing you'll remember is the ringing in your ears, not the important thing about the incidents monitor. This is an example of the kind of work that we do at the OECD that we're deeply committed to, and I think the platform that we have in cooperation with not-for-profits like the Future Society and others, colleagues in the UN system, UNESCO, and others, is really critical to setting those standards, but also proliferating them to the broadest possible audience, so we can truly take as global of an approach as possible to governing this technology. The second area, and I think it's easy to say in front of this audience, is multi-stakeholder collaboration and engagement, and we know that's critically important on a whole wide variety of digital technology issues, AI being no exception, and perhaps one of the more obvious examples. But I want to just highlight, many of you know that we have integrated the Global Partnership on AI into the OECD construct, and it really demonstrates an effort to align global multi-stakeholder and stakeholder engagement efforts with governments across the board to expand the expertise that civil society and private sector, academia bring to the table, as well as expand the number of countries sitting around the table to engage in collaborative and multi-stakeholder policymaking. So that's the second piece. And then the third and final piece, which you wouldn't be listening to someone from the OECD if I didn't end my brief remarks on this point, which is the evidence base and the data and information we're trying to gather about AI, everything from what investment looks like to the economy around AI, but also to things like incidents. And so that evidence base is critical and core to our heart and to the work that we do at the OECD. We believe very strongly, and I think we've seen evidence over the course of decades of working on digital and tech policy issues, that in the absence of good data and good evidence foundation, it's very difficult to make good policy. And so if we're going to govern this technology, the investment in that evidence base, it takes foresight, it takes persistence, it's often unglamorous, but it's critically important, and we're here to partner with all of you to do that. So my time is up. I had the little sign. Thank you for having us, and again for the cooperation and partnership, and I wish you a very good event today.
Thank you, Audrey. And indeed, this is probably like one of the audience too. It's easiest to say, like multi-stakeholder coordination is important. So Guilherme, Canela, on behalf of UNESCO, please come and tell us what you think of today's event.
Good morning, everyone. A pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for the Future Society, all the supporters of this event, of course, the Greek government. For UNESCO, it's a real pleasure to be involved with this roundtable since the very first edition and continuing with OECD and other colleagues. Also greetings from our Assistant Director General, Mr. Dr. Tawfik Jelassi. He actually prepared a short video for all of you. For some technical issues, we are not going to show it now, but it will be available in the platforms later on. So very quickly to set the scene, two major challenges and a big opportunity. The first major challenge that is related to AI, but is much broader than that, the rule of law system and the accountability systems that are the foundation of our democratic values are under attack everywhere. Autocrats don't like independent judges and don't like independent journalists. So, and this is connected with independent scientists, with civil society. All this space is shrinking. And AI can be a motor to help to tackle this problem or to enhance the problem. Our job is to make sure we tackle and not we don't enhance, but it's not easy. The second challenge is that there is a narrative being built by several of these actors that there is a dilemma or a contradiction between innovating and protecting human rights. This is a lie. There is only one innovation possible, the one that is connected with human rights. Otherwise, it's another name, but it's not innovation. So what is the opportunity with these two challenges? When I started the UNESCO Judges Initiative many years ago, I was trying to convince Chief Justice that we needed to train judges on several human rights issues, and particularly freedom of expression. And they first looked to me when I said that was as I was coming from another planet, because okay, we have so many other issues. But they bought the idea, and 13 years later, we have engaged 36,000 judges and prosecutors from 165 countries on this initiative. But the good news is that when I come to see them to say we want to offer some capacity building on AI, I feel like Willy Wonka offering golden tickets to kiddies, because they are really interested on that. So this is a huge opportunity because they are interested, but they also want to be part of the conversation on crafting this. So a spoiler for later today, we are going to launch global guidelines for judicial systems on this matter. And it was built with the judges, which is a very interesting part of the story, because I'm just a bureaucrat in Paris that don't understand anything about the judicial systems and rule of law. But we are a facilitator of this conversation, and the Athens Roundtable was always very important for these processes of getting this conversation going on. So thank you so much, and looking forward to the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you for this, and indeed, I think it's great to see the capacity building that has been able to happen thanks to UNESCO on this front. So yeah, really great to hear that. We will have now a video message from the United Nations Special Envoy on Technology, Amandeep Singh Gill.
Warm greetings from New York. It's my pleasure to join you virtually today. Digital and emerging technologies bring promise, but they can also challenge and at times weaken the rule of law. As we advance these technologies, we must remain clear-eyed about their risks: algorithmic opacity, bias and discrimination, and growing problems of information disintegrity, to name a few. If not properly governed, AI can erode the human values that should guide its development: fairness, equality, and respect for human rights and the rule of law. At a time when digital divides are widening and global approaches to governance are fragmenting, the stakes are even higher. Rising geopolitical tensions are shaping countries' willingness to create and comply with norms at both the national and international levels. This is why the United Nations has placed digital cooperation and responsible AI at the center of its broader multilateral agenda. Across the system, we are working to support member states in navigating both the opportunities and the risks in a balanced, pragmatic way. 2025 is a turning point. The use of AI is accelerating, and international cooperation is finally catching up. In August, the General Assembly acted with rare unity. All 193 member states created two standing global mechanisms: the Independent International Scientific Panel on AI and the Global Dialogue on AI Governance. This agreement reflects a shared understanding that no country can address these challenges alone. For the first time, the world now has inclusive, evidence-based structures to guide AI in the public interest. The scientific panel will pull together expertise from across regions and disciplines to provide impartial, early warning signs and ensure that policy making is driven by evidence, not speculation. In parallel, the Global Dialogue will establish an annual United Nations forum where every country has a seat at the table of AI. It'll support interoperability across regions and help ensure that innovation remains open, accessible, and aligned with human rights and international law. So I invite you to engage with the United Nations Independent International Scientific Panel on AI and the Global Dialogue on AI Governance. Across governments, the private sector, academia, and civil society, we have an opportunity to shape AI in ways that uphold rather than threaten the rule of law. This is shared work, and we will need continued cooperation to make meaningful progress. Thank you.
So now we will have a brief reflection on AI governance history with Nico Miai, the founder and chair of the board of the Future Society, and myself. So Nico, I invite you to come on the stage.
So
Yeah, welcome, Nico. I think this is it's not even a Manel. It's a Nicola Nel. So glad to have you here. It's I think it's the first time we have been on stage together. So thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, and congratulations to you and the rest of the team for this fantastic work and fantastic venue and the program. It looks really exciting. Well, it's been 2 years that you've taken over the executive leadership, the mantle, and I've seen a lot of great work, including the Athens Roundtable, the global campaign on red lines, what's coming in terms of incident and accident prevention. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because it seems that you have not yet solved AI governance. It seems it's getting increasingly difficult to solve for that. But you want to talk a little bit about what lies upon us vis-a-vis what TFS does?
Yeah, no, I mean, indeed, like there's two kind of angles that we will discuss today are actually quite important. But yeah, when we look back over the past 2 years, it's indeed something where we haven't solved AI governance yet. There's still some work to do. It's not been a slam dunk. We actually have we are seeing in the EU and in the US quite some less enthusiasm for like a well-governed technology, and Australia even this week just like removed like AI safeguards from its national AI strategy, succumbing to pressure from industry apparently. But yeah, I remember actually like when I applied like for the role, right? Like in the motivation letter to have like titled it like AI governance is getting weirder and weirder. And yeah, it was quite weird, right? So I was already back then. So it was June 2023. We had already emerged from 12 months of like witnessing all these AI companies hiring a lot of lobbyists. The governments therefore starting to have different positions, and of course market forces kicking in with like stable diffusion. So investors are rushing towards it. So I remember in that space I was also talking about the next 5 years of AI governance and how weird it will become. And there was something along the line of like the economic and political forces of 2023 would actually be hitting us for the next 5 years, because like this is just like bigger now than just some companies or some researchers. It's governments and investors like themselves like getting interested in this, and indeed this was a bit the critical juncture there. So in 2023, this is where we started seeing, for example, the negotiations for the Bletchley Summit stalling a bit and having like a much less prescriptive outcome than like what was ambitioned originally. We also saw like agentic AI technologies become like kind of this geopolitical and security challenge. And then, of course, the AI Act negotiations in Brussels were like under increasing tension, at least when it comes to general purpose AI technology. So I also remember that you wrote back in 2018 an article on the geopolitics of AI, already warning of how weird things would become with the race to data, the race to compute, the race to talent and algorithms. Yeah, and the fact that it would transform superpowers foreign policy, and we are actually witnessing that right now. And even though in theory we knew, it, like in practice it does feel we knew it would get weird, but in practice it does feel very, very weird as well, right? Like the super PAC, the EU rolling back a law that has not even been like implemented, like and then data centers in space, right? Like this statement by Sam Altman of having data centers in space, but endorsed by the whole industry, kind of capture how weird things have become on this front. But on your side, right? Like this is something that, like, you know, you have witnessed the Athens Roundtable. So since like 2019, we had decided to make it like the rule of law, like as a last line of defense, almost something fundamental that the EU or the transatlantic community, like EU, US, and beyond, could all stand behind to resist like industry pressure, to navigate the tricky line between security and freedom. And yet we have witnessed that this rule of law has come to really like great threats. So yeah, you ask about the red lines and the incidents. Yeah, we are seeing like big cyber attacks. We are seeing teenagers taking their own life using this robot. We have seen technologies like Nano Banana questioning like the whole copyright and that kind of thing. So the rule of law itself is really like being challenged quite a lot. So it's the reason why we are shifting towards this is perhaps a bit more because like it seems like the whole of humanity has become a vulnerable group, as I was like mentioning already there. Like I think there is a lot of stakeholders that are now seeing all of their interests negatively affected by this technology, the ungoverned form of this technology. So here we are indeed, like maybe we are a single cyber attack away from losing like the entire internet, and this is why like it's important to agree on unacceptable risks and to start working towards incident prevention as well, or crisis prevention. But on your side, so 2 years that you have moved on from TFS leadership, like for its new horizons. So can you share a bit more about what you have seen from the outside of the organization, and like what you are foreseeing in this AI governance cycles that we are experiencing?
When I wrote and published that article on the geopolitics of AI in 2018, the subtitle was The Return of Empires. And I'm sorry to say that we are here. It used to be the shadow of war, it's war. It used to be the risk of exploding inequalities, it is exploding inequalities. So a lot of these risks have materialized now, and yes, indeed, we are at a critical juncture. Like, is it to be debated that public trust is eroding? Is it to be debated that there are race dynamics which are pushing us to really leave safety in the balance, where we try to keep up with the frontier of technology and maintain sovereignty? So you have this triangle: sovereignty, the frontier, and safety. Because at the end of the day, if we are going to hand over these technologies into the hands of our kids, and I have a 10-year-old, I want her to be safe, okay? And I think you all do want your kids to be safe. And at the same time, I want us to grow up in a world where she'll be happy. And I'm sorry to say that, the owl, the Athena owl, is there to see through the light and to see through the darkness, and to see with wisdom under uncertainty. Well, I would say that we need that more than ever now. So as we move forward, and the Athens Roundtable is really a place where we try and it's an invitation to all of you to not hide too much behind talking points, to really try and speak plainly to the problems and try and forge collectively solutions. And it's time we start stopping to admire the problem and forge solutions. And I know these solutions are hard to be forged because of the immense conflict of interest and the topography of power and the asymmetry of power. I mean, NVIDIA market cap of 5 trillion. This has consequences. Let's be clear, this has consequences. When you want to compare the public, represented by AI safety institutes, with these kind of huge, I'll dare say it, empires, the citizens lie in the balance. So it's time that we make choices, but choices about what? Well, like you said, drawing lines. Yes, at times drawing red lines and knowing what we want to draw them upon. Because yes, indeed, domestically, the rule of law and democracy are in question. Let's be clear on that too. I mean, it's really, and internationally, it used to be when I was a student at Sciences Po, like peace and security. Oh, okay, well, but now peace and security. It seems that it resonates way more with what we have to defend. So I think that these are the two fronts we need to defend, and making choice on how we draw these lines. We want to keep innovation. I want productivity gains. I want my kids and my friends to be able to enjoy the power of generative AI, but not at the cost of them being enfeebled, being alienated. So second, making choices on the mechanisms of accountability that are shared and implemented and enforced in the public and in the private sector. Yes, we talk a lot about evaluation. As a matter of fact, I founded Prism Eval to add innovation to the pipelines of evaluation, to make sound evaluations. We are very far away from where we should be at this stage. And the verification mechanisms to reconcile this notion of frontier safety and sovereignty are far away from being implemented. So I think that accountability remains to be, it's an objective. It's making choice on defending what lies upon us in terms of the fork. Like, we have a geopolitical fork. The industry pressure leads to a situation where the EU AI Act, which is right now the only binding regulation, yes, that is complex, yes, that can be enhanced, is under attack. And so Europe stands at the moment of a fork, deciding whether it will buttress it or whether it will cave in a way. And speaking here from this beautiful place in the United Kingdom, you know, the role that allies, and this word is changing, I'm using this word which is increasingly getting loaded, it means to be allied. The roles of allies in buttressing or diluting is going to be tremendous. And last but not the least, we are seeing the beginning of what is probably going to be the most defining element in that conversation, which is the next cycle in the US. Let's call it two. Like, the cycle is going to open next year with the mid-race, with the midterms, and lead to the presidential race. I think that it is going to shape incentives. It is going to shape these incentives for better or worse in terms of further polarization, in terms of, for example, like we know that in the US, a lot of things that happen, when they happen in the right direction, involve bipartisan support. And at the same time, I think that partisanship, if we can call it that way these days, like it's like, wow, like, is there a bit of a civil war in the US right now? Maybe. So the way in which this cycle will inform the incentives and the way in which, you know, all these multi-stakeholder group seeks to influence it is going to have consequences. I mean, the rise of these super PACs and super PAC against super PAC, make no mistake, it will influence the way we can work or not work. And that's why we're here together today to try and discuss these things and make these choices and delineate these solutions that we can inject meaningfully into these various mechanisms that are on the table, that are threatened, and that we indeed uphold the rule of law as the bedrock of democracy and peace.
Thank you very much for this. We are at times, but like I guess we will continue talking like together anytime in the future. I thank you very much, Nico.